It's value chain I hate.
I won't mention value chain. So there are two value chains here.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to another European Aviation Conference Institute podcast. Is it a vodcast? I'm not quite sure what we call them. But today I'm absolutely delighted to say that I have Mikhail Grohotsky with me, and I've mispronounced his name already, and I'm only 10 seconds in, so that's a good start. And Mikhail is in charge of both cargo and mail for LOT, Polish Airlines. A very interesting topic, a lot of things to talk about on this subject. So, Mikhail, thank you very much for joining us. Do you want to just explain what it is precisely that you're in charge of for LOT?
Oh, yes. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm in charge of cargo and mail business in a total. We are the division of cargo, so it means that in a passenger airlines, we are rather separated with our own sales, with our own operations, marketing, and business development. Of course, we're a part of the airlines, which is a national carrier for Poland and one of the dominating airlines in Central Eastern Europe. So it is a similar situation like for most recognized American airlines, as United, American, or Delta. It is or British Airways or Iberia. It is the same system. So I'm in charge of the business, and the division of cargo is rather successful in our airlines, but separated.
Right. So do you have independent freighters, or do you simply use the belly hold?
No, we are independent, but we are not a separated company. We are the separated division, let's say, to make.
I understand that. My question was your capacity.
So we do mostly the business on the lower deck on our long haul planes, plus narrow body planes in the mid and short haul connections. Plus, of course, we rent the freighters out of the market in case of need, because we do this business as well. But of course, as a kind of the opportunity. Normally, regular business that we do is to moving freight in and out in a belly, which is, of course, the biggest business for the airlines and the very necessary a part of the business for any airlines which doing traditional passenger stuff as a not low cost but a legacy carrier.
Indeed. What's the split between long haul and short haul for the cargo business at LOT?
It is, very specified. We are in very specified situation right now in this year, because, normally in the past, I'm here in this company 7.5 years. And in the past, 97% of our incomes were coming from long hauls, and only 2 to 3 from short mid hauls, because it's narrow body operations. But today the fleet structure is a little bit different, and this year 10% is coming from narrow body operations, from mid and short haul.
Right.
And just by the way, it is interesting very much, because normally traditional airlines are a little bit ignored this part of the business, and we let's say we have to change a little bit this year the structure of our sales. Interesting, and that could be interesting, because narrow body planes, they are carrying much more less cargo than the wide bodies. But when you have a structure of 737 Max and then bigger Embraers in operating on mid and short hauls, it means that very, very expensive freight could be moved by your plane. So on this 10%, the volume is rather small, but extremely expensive and paid well. So it's interesting part of the business, how we have to, let's say, fit to the changing in a fleet structure.
Interesting, so interesting. I mean, the traditional sum for air cargo is that it's 5% of the volume, but 35% of the value, and you're having that even within your short haul versus long haul mix, that you've got really low volume but really high value in the short haul stuff. Is that because the low cost carriers refuse to carry cargo? They say it slows down their turnarounds and things like that. And there are now fewer short haul connections by most of the legacy carriers. Are you finding that offering cargo in the short haul market is somewhere where you don't have quite as much competition?
Not exactly. It's you're right that low-cost carriers are dominating here in our part of Europe in a mid and short hauls, but they don't carry for cargo, which is exactly complicated for this kind of the carriers. But that I don't feel any competition because in our part of Europe we just are alone. That the competition is coming from the Western Europe mostly or Arabic countries. But that if you can imagine that the high payable business like pharmaceuticals, human remains, animals, and radioactive, for example, for the medicine purpose stuff, is going to be moved on the short hauls through Europe, especially. It means that the position that we are in our part of Europe had a big beneficials for us with that one, because what I mentioned, especially live animals, the human remains, extremely urgent cargo like aerospace spare parts for repairs. They are paid by a minimum by IATA rates. They are high payable freight minimum. So if you don't have a competition with that one so much, you are in a very good position. But of course, you have to recognize this part of business in your portfolio. We did this one, and I'm very happy with that one. Another example is that when I grew up on my studies, I hear about, let's say, the good things in Poland, especially. And then most of people were trying to tell us that the Poland has a perfect location on logistics maps. And yes, but I feel this year, especially, that this location promotes us, especially for this kind of cargo, because for the short hauls and mid hauls, we don't have a special competition on that one. Because there is no around legacy carriers born in our region. Because the Czech Airlines does not exist. In Baltic countries, there is no national carrier except Air Baltics, but they use the very small planes, Airbus 220. Others on the south, there is no national carrier. So all other airlines, they are just, coming here to pick up the passengers, to pick up some cargo or deliver, but it's rather small operations, small planes. We have exceptional good location, and now we really used the beneficial coming from the location.
I'm going to talk about that because it's fair to say that the Polish economy has been one of Europe's most successful economies, which I presume also helps Polish Airlines, but also the cargo department of Polish Airlines. Why do you think Poland has done so well, both generally and in aviation, compared to your neighbour Germany, for example, where traffic is continuing to not grow? Why is Poland such a success story?
I think, it's from economy point of view, when I observe supply chains and all this, what's happening is Poland has a very good mix of the industry. It's nothing dominates exactly. Everything is equal, and it is a large country. It is the fifth largest country in European Union right now, and also the number of the economy is follow that number. But so we have a very, very, very good mix. Give you an example. When we started to get the certification for the CIV IATA, which is the top competences for the airlines, we recognized that pharmaceuticals should go as the first. And immediately we reached 10% of the total volume that we carry is pharmaceuticals. Another ones, that for example, the Polish economy doesn't depend for automotive or only high tech, only automotive, only pharmaceuticals. So it's a perfect balance, just by the way. And the balance of the industry makes the situation very reliable for any changes on the market, any changes on an freight. It means that that when the traditional automotive is slowing down with like in Germany, for example, or Czech and Slovakia, we are very reliable. And also, it's important to mention that not only production, not only trade, but also the structure of investors coming here. Because we don't have only investors from Germany, UK, or France. We have also investors from South Korea, China, Japan. And if you consider that this is very nice mix, nothing or no one dominate on the market, it looks that your economy is very well balanced. And a balance is exactly the answer for your question. Balance in the industry, balance in production, and also good self-consumption, of course.
And fewer competitors for like Polish cargo. So
it's
a win-win.
For cargo, we have a competition, of course. We have a competition, but our secrets are, let's say, I don't want to mention all of the secrets, but
oh, come on.
The biggest one is the knowledge and understanding, because you know that I spent 14 years in the freight forwarding side. So right now, normally the people are not moving from the freight forwarders to airlines. It's rather the direction is from airlines to freight forwarding. I do it different way. It means that for me, myself, it helps me a lot because firstly, I have a contacts, very well contacts on the top. And the second one is the knowledge about the needs of our customers. And the third one is, this is the top important exactly, because the airliners, they don't know how exactly relations between the freight forwarders and their customers look like. I know it. And also, you know, that's because we also hired few people from the industry. We know it more and more and more. So this knowledge helps us a lot.
Indeed. It's an interesting thing, isn't it? It's very hard to imagine. I mean this ever so politely, but it's hard to imagine a travel agent becoming the head of an airline, but a freight forwarder becoming the head of the cargo division. You're living proof that can happen. And the relationship between freight forwarders and customers is different to the relationship between travel agents and passengers. I think, you know, cargo truly is a sort of a different part of the business and needs to be addressed differently, I think. Let me move on though a little bit. What is the balance between, in your long haul markets, what is the balance between the United States on the one hand and Asia on the other?
Right now, you know, it's very interesting. It's very interesting because you're asking about the actual situation today, now. And
well, I am. And all right. Well, let me go back and ask the question last year. What was the balance, and then we'll talk about the actual situation now.
The balance was like this. The Asian market is mostly the exporting. So inbound from Asia is dominating, and the exports out of our countries or the region or country like Poland, which is the biggest in the region, was stable, but you know, as the export was smaller than the import, and the trend is continuous. But for the US and Canada, especially, so North America, I don't want to talk about the Mexico especially, because Mexico especially is directed or linked to automotive business from the region for Europe. But you know that US and Canada always, both countries were very, very important countries in the trade, and they were very well balanced. So import and export was okay on the same level. And we continue, and we see the trend is continued right now. But transatlantic trade is very well balanced, import and export. Asia still much more exporting to our region than importing. But to be detailed, because I think that you should understand more my answer. Why is that? Why we see a lot of things, and how I can evaluate my answer. First of all, is the region that we are coming from is much more depending on the infrastructure from the Western Europe. Infrastructure means the consolidations and transportation job. Let's say mostly the Frankfurt dominates in our portfolio. When anybody asks me who is your main competitor, I'm not saying any specific airlines is my competitor. It's not the airlines, it's the competitor. The supply chain model and architecture built around Frankfurt is my competition mostly. So the question, for example, about the volume, about the trends, should be divided between two things. First one is a trade. The second one is the job did by local infrastructure or the local airlines, where are focused on the master way bills issued in my infrastructure or the regional infrastructure to and out. So with a trade is a little bit something different than the job exactly. So
well, let's start by asking about the trade more generally. Yeah.
So you know that the trade is much more bigger than we see in the statistics. We have the statistics because as airlines we have to know what's going on around, and we have to know what exactly is the size of the market, what is available, what is the business opportunity, what is not business opportunity, because decision maker, for example, calculates global business and the solutions through Amsterdam or Frankfurt. We have to know it, and we know it exactly. So our competitions, local competitions, they don't need to know it. They are focused on the real job did on or happening right now on a local infrastructure, not local airports. So it means that our competition, the direct competition, is hunting mostly on the statistics or volume carried by the competitors, or our volume or other volume. But we are hunting much more mostly on something that we can create by ourselves or get from the different source, from the Western infrastructure. I mean about a business which is, for example, directed to Poland or to region, or is arranged by hub in Frankfurt as a kind of the export hub. So it is the big difference between us and others. But with the trade, you know, when we observe the region is booming, all the time is booming and is growing. When we compare to our neighbor economy, which is Germany, it's much more bigger. They are much more sensitive than us. Our trade is growing both ways, export and import. Our local job, transportation job through our infrastructure is growing much more bigger than in Germany, for example, which is very, very positive. And a lot of influence on that trend is created by us. Exactly.
It's interesting though. I mean, over the weekend, or maybe it was late on Friday, ACI, the Airport Association, put out its first quarter figures, and it said that freight or cargo has fallen 1.7% generally through its airports, its member airports, which is pretty much all of them. Are you seeing that? That cargo has always been a leading edge indicator, hasn't it, of what's going to happen to the economy? And ACI very scarily, I think, said 1.7% down. Are you seeing that in Warsaw?
It's I did my notice, you know, that's also tell you that's how the previous year looked in our country and the region, and also how the trade looks like compared to the Western Europe. So previous year, the job did directly growth of export plus 15%, import 26%. So it's a very, very, very good. Same the region, export very similar, plus 14%, import plus 48%. So it means that the economy is growing, so double digits in export, which is representing exactly production and the trade. But you know, that's a big growth of the direct import side is mostly related to the e-commerce business from Asia. And we have to say it is e-commerce, because normally cargo business is supporting exactly the economy and the growth based on production. It is, you know, GDP is much more related to the export, because that when you import raw materials, or I don't know, as get some sources from the ground, and you are maintaining some sources, you are doing the production, and you export by air. Does mean that you export something which is high value stuff, because that air freight is supporting high value stuff. It means if you have a good export through the air, it means that your economy is good, because your GDP is growing, because it's a direct supporting. So I can risk to say that 14% in the region of export of goods. Okay, if we cut this 4%, because it's still representing some e-commerce, also a little bit hidden from Asia to the US. So 10% is very nice if representing the direct export out of the countries like this. Import, this 48% in the region, is mostly the e-commerce. Is e-commerce mostly from the China previous year. But with the trade, we have a situation that export is a little bit less, and import is also double digit. Total trade, as I calculated the previous year, total trade growth in the region of around 8 to 9%. Nice, very, very nice.
Very nice.
So good for economy, good for economy. But that's if we compare to especially the Germany, the export in that business dropped down of 2 to 3% previous year, but it is mostly automotive business, because the traditional cars are. Production of the traditional cars is going down a little bit, and electric vehicles are producing and offering on the markets. So they are in some kind of the crisis, and then the statistics are very very clear on that. It is not a big crisis, because it's only 2 to 3%. But if you compare and if you consider the PMI index, which is exactly on neutral position, 50 points or a little bit less time to time, it means it is not optimistic situation. So I'm very interesting to see how big influence new tariffs in the States will have an effect later in the second part of the year. We'll see.
So you think we haven't started to see the disruption of those tariffs yet?
Yeah, the tariffs are. They have a big influence, especially for e-commerce today, and also for the automotive business. All other stuff, especially from our part of region, looks they are not infected.
Yet.
Not infected. You cannot imagine the situation, or you can imagine situation that American investments, especially in our part of Europe, mostly in Poland, it's aerospace business. So if you have manufacturers of the jet engines, partially, fully, or airplane structures, if you consider that there is a big line of the customers waiting for the planes, okay, the situation with the China today, just that are visible from the 2 weeks. So we don't have any, let's say, any right to evaluate how the trend will be effective later, because we don't know. That's even in the night, American administration can change the rules. We don't know it. But if we have a production of aerospace business here in our region, and this is very serious production, it can't stop. That can't stop, and it's still pending, and supply is huge, and demand as well on the production line of Pratt & Whitney or Boeing or all these subcontractors, of course, and it can't be stopped. If you consider that, especially in Poland, Hungary, Czech, and Slovakia, we have also the new investors coming from South Korea and China, focused on the electric vehicles, and the parts for that one also needed in the States. The demand is still on, so it's going. I must say that what I see, e-commerce is affected. Of course, e-commerce business affected, and it has a big influence on any data changing, any statistics changing around the e-commerce. All other business looks very, very stable.
Right. Interesting. Very interesting. The other thing you mentioned that I'm really interested in is the infrastructure question. Do you want to just expand on that a little bit? What the infrastructure cargo needs is different to the infrastructure that passengers need, of course. And you said it's Frankfurt is your sort of infrastructure hub, if you like. But there's a new airport being built in Poland, as I understand it. Is that the answer to your prayers? Are you going to see the infrastructure hub shift from Frankfurt to Warsaw?
Yes and no. Of course, there is yes and no. That's okay. I tell you very interesting stuff that is obviously I don't see so much in a public discussion. So I need a few minutes to explain. The first of all,
please do. This is a really fascinating topic for me. So please do. Yeah.
First of all, we have to know that the total volume of the region and what is the volume exactly linked to the land, let's say, as a region. So we know it as a Central Eastern Europe because Poland is a geographically center of Europe. But if we calculate that the region represents 1 million tons, because it is the number around, we have to know what is the possible volume to be, let's say, controlled, and what is the impossible and why. So what is the opportunity to really to get on, and what is not opportunity? So today around 30% only total volume representing or producing here in the region or inbound or importing to the region is really in the range of the local infrastructure. 70%, around the 70% is still controlled mostly by Frankfurt or Amsterdam. Mostly Frankfurt.
So just let me unpack that for a moment. What you mean is, if you had more airport infrastructure, you would be able to service a bigger share of that 100 million. Is that right?
No, absolutely not. No, I'm trying to explain that, as in part of this million tons, is a part of that one is available, part not. And that's the mechanism, how it looks like is it's a little bit more complicated. I try to explain, because first of all, the supply chain and the globalization and supply chain of architecture of the supply chain is not easy, that the people trying to, has to explain that it is only the relation supply to demand. It's not like this. It's not working like this. The first of all, in our region, we have investors, production, trade, and inbound controlled from outside. So if you can imagine a situation, you have a factory, I don't know, could be in Slovakia, could be in Poland or Czech Republic. Doesn't matter. In the region, you have a production. So, for example, there is a producer of cars or cars engines, and I don't want to mention any brand, but there is a foreign production. So you have a production only. So it means that the production plant doesn't have their own sales, doesn't have their own supply chain. So somewhere, in other country, there is a decision maker. Then you have a situation with the freight forwarders. The global freight forwarders mostly coming from the countries like Germany, US, France. Okay, don't want to ignore the UK or others, but mostly global supply chain is controlled by the companies from Germany. Okay, now also from the Denmark, as the biggest freight forwarder is right now born 3 days ago or 5 days ago by the merge of DSV and DB Schenker. And that they are from other countries. So normally, if this producer of the engines, car engines, located in Poland, has the production and must carry production to United States, just for example, it is not that somebody from this production plant, from these engines, is deciding how, where, and for what money they will be exporting the production. No, this decision maker is sitting somewhere at the investor headquarters. Then investor headquarters is releasing the tenders for the freight forwarders. Freight forwarders are also international global companies, They have a tender management, and they mostly reacted for the tender with the prices, with the solutions. And you have engines in Poland. I don't know, lamps, headlamps. I don't know, some other parts of the vehicles somewhere else in the another plants in other countries. So if they calculate that it will be a really massive volume that could be consolidate in Frankfurt, it means they can ignore the situation that, okay, let's go from Poland, let's go from Prague. It will be easier and cheaper, because it is not easy to answer. It will be cheaper because it's closer, because the mass, the critical mass, is creating around the big volumes when freight forwarders can pay less per kilo and consolidate, because this is freight forwarding job exactly. And it looks like so, if you consider also that all these investors are from foreign, because we don't have in our region, Central Eastern Europe, the local freight forwarder with a global presence. It's not. So if you consider that the big brands like Apple, I don't know, Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes, and others, which are very global company, they use the global freight forwarders. Global freight forwarders are calculating all this big volume around some solution that they recognized in the past, works, developed, and so on. So for our airport, of course, that is under construction or planning right now, definitely that will be the big chance to do that. But to understand all mechanism, follow and behind the architecture is a key to answer if it is potentially available 1 million tons. In my opinion, not 1 million tons, because for example, every day we also, as a lot, we grab the cargo from Amsterdam from one of our big customer, moving by trucks here, and then load on our planes. So also, even Germany, even Netherlands, they cannot be sure that 100% of the volume representing by the, let's say, country or neighbor countries, that is available by them. It's not like this. It's much more complicated.
Yes, very, very obviously. So when you talk about infrastructure for cargo, what do you mean specifically? Do you mean cold storage rooms? Do you mean very big hangars? What is it?
It's that the infrastructure as itself, it must be answer for the customer needs. And customers for the infrastructure are airlines. Airlines are getting close to the freight forwarders. But that the infrastructure must especially satisfy the market to create the opportunity for the business. As you said, the cold storage or pharma hub, which is extremely important for the air freight, it must be developed. We don't have here in Poland or in our region rather serious infrastructure for this kind of the freight. It must go follow. But that the infrastructure is not the building only, because the buildings, cold storage, I don't know, live animals, warehouses or infrastructure is not an answer. It's relatively easy to build up. It is not rocket science, but the rocket science is how to optimize the traffic of the cargo, how to crush the bottlenecks. And the bottleneck is right now representing in export, in a safety rules and available options to make freight very safe. It means that the good economies like Germany, for example, or France, they have a lot of non-shippers. It means that the production plants or trade warehouses, they are ready and certified to move the freight from the original facility up to the airport in the safety supply chain. In our countries of the region is a very large number of the non-shippers. In Poland, we have today around 15. In Germany is 1,800. It's much more than 100 times. So if you, for example, build up a new airport, just the infrastructure 10 times bigger, it does not mean that it will be 10 times more effective than actual. It's not like this. That buildings, okay, that must be, that's buildings should be bigger because for the new volume. But infrastructure must find the answer for the crisis coming from the bottleneck. Bottleneck today in export is the security procedures and
Right.
the number of the non-shippers. That's the first. But this is the country business that should be the country-wise interest to go follow, because export, as I mentioned at the beginning, is supporting the economy and the GDP. High value
Yeah.
stuff exported somewhere that paid for the people's job did in a country.
Right.
So if you support the exporters much more to offer them safety, clear access, fast access to the global market, you are a winner. But non-shippers and the security procedure must go follow. Of course, the security is absolutely number one, but in our region, for the countries, it's a little bit today. It's a little bit behind very developed economies from Western Europe. It definitely, we are on the discussion, and we know that the management of the Central Communication Airport is talking about this one, so it is addressed well. We still have a time to do that, but it must go follow. From inbound side is also different. The bottleneck is coming mostly from VAT, taxes and duties. If you see for if you can look for why Amsterdam, for example, is so good for the inbound high-tech stuff. Answer is very clear. Amsterdam, because Netherlands and Belgium, both countries, in the past, they recognize the best customer-friendly systems for the customs, for the VAT accounting. So both countries implemented procedure very close to German procedure, because Germans follow that one to account VAT, which is, that's in Poland is at 23%. VAT very easy to not, let's say, the freeze any bank guarantee, real money or something, but easy account. So if you are, for example, producer in Asia of some very expensive stuff, you are not interested to pay or freeze your bank guarantee of 20 or 23%, one quarter of your value, which is high tech, is extremely valuable. So once you notice in our region, countries and infrastructure understand, but with this new airport will go follow the rules, they will be winner. I used to say mostly, if you have no idea how to do it, just check Dutch procedures, translate, copy, paste, and of course feed other accounting from the taxes, and you will have, in the worst scenario, the best existing right now in Europe. But of course, it's much more complicated, because as a VAT is still pretty high amount of the value. So it is a pretty high amount of the money. So it is not just only for the importers, but also for the fiscal administration of the country. So it's not easy just to copy, paste, translate, and okay. But I think, and I'm sure that with this new airport, the infrastructure explained by rules and regulations is much more important than only in order to build up the bigger warehouses and the buildings. This will happen for sure, but why and to whom address exactly in the infrastructure working, and the infrastructure which will be working exactly follow the customer needs.
Yeah, okay. Let me just go back for a moment, perhaps, for some of our viewers. The known shipper thing is an ICAO-driven cargo security point, isn't it? Am I right that known shippers are shippers who have passed whatever necessary qualification certification is there, and once those shippers put things into a container and it isn't opened, then it's allowed to go through without further screening? Is that what a known shipper is?
It's kind of it. The non-shipper is certified as a safe place, certified by the local aviation authorities, and it looks like this: the cargo coming to the truck, It could be loaded on the unit load device, container, pallet, doesn't matter. But could be also, as be just loaded as a loose parcels, loose pallets, loose cartons. But that the truck is sealed according to the procedures. The trucker also is going follow the regulated agent that time, regulated agent rules. But regulated agents are here. Regulated agent guarantee safe supply chain. But the non-shipper must be shipper. Then there's the under the truck seals. Truck is coming to the airport, and cargo don't need to be X-ray again. It's open in a safe area. Build up the UL unit load device, then safely loading to the plane. I give you an example in time how it looks. Once you are not non-shipper, your cargo is not secured or not under the secure supply chain, is coming firstly to the airport, is staying in the line and waiting for the X-ray because there are no dogs, no canine, no physical checking so much, and is waiting 12 hours. Then, because all others also are waiting, you are not exclusive shipper, as shippers, hundreds of them. So they are waiting 12 hours just only with that day. Then, that's the X-ray machine is scanning the stuff. Also, that the X-ray machines are extremely expensive. So you cannot expect that we will have, I don't know, 10 or 20 devices like this. Mostly there are 3, maybe 5, but extremely expensive stuff. So also the controllers, the people that they can manage the X-ray machine, also they are limited because this is very demanding procedure for the security guys that they are allowed to do that. And also the people cannot work, that's the 8 or 10 hours just on the X-ray machine because it's dangerous for their health. So you have a limited number of the devices. Then, that's the cargo is X-rayed. Then after it's X-rayed and the documents are stamped that they are okay and safe, they going to the place where the pallet or container is built up. So it takes more than 10 hours, always more than 10 hours. But in the situation that your cargo is built up on pallet or container under the security supply chain or safe supply chain, is coming to the airport, it could be transferred easily to the plane. You can reach, as the airport 2 hours before departure and still will be okay, because all this handling stuff don't need to be done at the airport. It means that handling job in the warehouse is not necessary so much like normally, and you do only, or airlines or handlers for the airlines are doing only loading to the plane. And that the 2 hours versus 12 or 16 is the difference.
Absolutely. So is it in Lot's interest? Is it in your interest to create more known shippers? Do you see that as one of your jobs, to expand the number of known shippers in Poland?
Absolutely, because when we have a much more known shippers, the situation, we eliminate the situation with the bottleneck or delays. So you can imagine that any freight that is not loaded on my plane because must be X-rayed, is not catch the flight, is the losing of money. Yeah, it's a worst load factor, which I'm interested in the best load factor, and we are good with that one. But we eliminate the situation with delays. We eliminate the situation with even frustration of our customers that they delivered on the plane to the airport the freight, and the freight will not catch the plane. So it's a lot of stuff. Okay, we are Polish. We know how to manage crisis situation. Believe me, we are clever guys here. But still, that when our economy, we started from that figures. Our economy is growing. Export is growing. It means that sooner or later, the airports or local infrastructure will be stuck. So another reason to move the freight to Frankfurt, to do safety procedures somewhere at the regional airports, they do that, and move to Frankfurt because they are open, they are big and something. It's so another dangerous. So sooner or later, we are very close to stuck all the operations here, for example, in Warsaw, which is the biggest airport, but it's another dangerous.
Indeed, indeed. And so the new airport is coming on. Do you know when it's coming online?
Oh, the airport. I don't know. I don't know because it's a lot of things must be done. Airports will be really huge, and it is top investment of the country. I think that it will be 2030 to 2032 in
Right.
operation.
Okay. Right. So
Because
in the meantime, you're the existing Warsaw Airport, WAW, and and are you constrained by the size of that airport? It's very close to downtown, for example, isn't it? It's a city airport. Yeah.
what? We'll see. We are the airlines, so investment is coming from the management of the state Polish airports. This is the exact translation from the name of the company. So state airports, and it is also the state investments. Huge money are involved. Everybody wants to have the situation with a good design, good airport for the passengers, mostly for cargo, for other things, for maintenance, repair, and overhaul, institution for military for sure. But also, that in the same time, the next 8 years, WAW must also grow because there's also danger that, for example, if main carrier, which is LOT exactly, it is a very natural situation, will move in the same size like today to the new 10 times bigger airport, or 10 or 5, doesn't matter, many times bigger than today.
Yes.
And part of the airport will be empty, of course, because the national carrier, of course, naturally will be the host of the airport. So that during this time, our local native airport, which is WAW, also has a development plan to grow. It's interesting because it is the city airport. It is the limitation of the night flights. There are a lot of limitations of the noise. It is a limitation of the operations during the day because there's cross runways. The runway is, a lot of people ignore the situation that the runways are not only determining the capacity of the airport, because the runway is not something that is starting and ending at the fence of the airport, because navigation systems are much more behind the airport, much more installed in the surface behind the airport in kilometers, not this 100 meters. So people forget about this one, that the airport is not starting at the fence or the gate of the airport and ending on another side of the fence. It's much more bigger infrastructure than only the fence, which has which are boundaries of the airport. It is much more bigger situation and infrastructure.
And that, if I may say, Michael, thank you very much for that, is a beautiful way to remind everybody that the European Aviation Conference is being held this year in Warsaw, in Poland. And we have to take a holistic view. I mean, the cargo is as connected to air traffic control as passengers are connected to catering and all those. It's a really complex industry, aviation. And we need to take a holistic view, which is why I've been really, really happy to talk to you today about the cargo side of the business, because as an ex-airline guy myself, I know that cargo tends to be put in a different department and sort of shut away. But actually, it's a seriously important part of all of this, and as important as air traffic control and everything else. Everything is connected in aviation. We're certainly looking forward to coming to Poland. I would like to thank you very much for your insights and your wisdom today. A really interesting story. So many more miles to travel, but I'd just like to ask. I'm sure everyone will join with me in thanking you for your time. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Andrew.